All right, I will say good morning. Let's continue. We're picking up on still in Perikut Aleph, chapter 11, page Kuf Hey. V'haya ze limud. So if you remember again, we're focusing now. Say thank you for the coffee. We're focusing now on the section over here where the Ramchal is speaking about the difficulty of distancing oneself from arayos, from immorality. So if you remember again, in yesterday's shir, so the Ramchal spoke about the idea, he compared the concept of arayos, or I should say the framework of arayos, to nazirus. What was the idea by nazirus? Even though on a technical level the nazir is prohibited from drinking wine, but you see that Chazal extended that prohibition to apply to grapes, moist grapes, dried grapes, things soaked in grapes. And it teaches us an incredible concept, right? I should say an incredible construct. V'haya ze limud. This teaches us something very important. Top of page Kuf Hey. Shelimda Torah lechachamim, eich yasu him hasyag leTorah, b'mishmeres shenimsar biyadam la'asos lemishmarta. Through Nazir, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu is teaching Chazal how to create a siyag, how to create a protective fence around halacha in order to go ahead and guard it. Ki yilmedu min ha-nazir le'asar ba'avor ha'ikr gam kol damila. We learn from Nazir that it is not just enough to prohibit the prohibition itself. Rather, one must prohibit other things that are like the prohibition and whose performance could lead to the prohibition. So we'll say, so logic would dictate that in life there are two categories. There is that which is mutar, that which is asr. That which is mutar is permitted, that which is asr, and let's move on. But yet we know that human nature is to walk a fine line. And if you walk a fine line, inevitably what occurs is, I fall on the wrong side of it. So Chazal understood, based on HaKadosh Baruch Hu's construct of Nazir, to go ahead and create a protective barrier, a recognition that if I make for myself a gather, if I make for myself a protective barrier in life, so that even if I fall and even if I fail, which inevitably I do, I fall into the safety net of the barrier and not into the depths of the actual prohibition. V'nimtza, shasta haTorah b'mitzvah zo shel Nazir, ma shemasru l'chachamim shiyasu b'shar kol hamitzvos, l'man das shezeh ritzono shel makom, k'she'oser lanu echa min ha'isurin, yilamid sasum min ha'mafurash la'asor kol ha'karov lo. So it says really an incredible yisod. So it turns out, says Ramchal, that just like by Nazir, the ikr of Nazir is that I shouldn't drink wine. That's the ikr of Nazir. But yet, again, so many other things are prohibited, lest I come to that prohibition. So at the end of the day, this becomes a paradigmatic example for how to go ahead and deal with life. Don't just live life in black and white, mutter asr. But at the end of the day, I have to create for myself protective fences, protective barriers. At the end of the day, how do I create a little bit of a cushion, a little bit of a safety net to ensure that I don't fail, crash, and burn in life? So therefore it says Ramchal, now you begin to understand when it comes to the world of arayos, when it comes to the world of immorality, so sometimes there is a profound necessity to prohibit things which themselves may not be asr, but yet may lead us to inappropriate behavior and conduct. He says, Dahainu, bein b'maisa, bein b're'iyah, bein b'dibar, bein b'shmiyah, bein b'machshava. As we're going to see, there are some things that Chazal prohibited that are actional because they might lead ultimately again to something inappropriate. There are things that Chazal prohibited when it came to the world of re'iyah, what we look at, what we speak about, what we listen to, and even what we think about. Why? Even though these things may not quote unquote be acts of immorality, but at the end of the day they could lead one down the path of immorality. We'll say, let's analyze these things. B'maisa. So what does it mean, for example, that Chazal prohibited certain actions, even though the actions themselves are not arayos? Tahainu, hanegiyah, o hachibuk uchiyotze, So for example, says Ramchal, the concept of arayos is a sexual relationship. That's arayos. But yet Chazal also came along and said, Nigia, physical contact, even of a non-sexual nature. Chibuk is literally hugging, embracing. So over here he's saying that you see Chazal went ahead and said that there may be certain things which in and of themselves are not prohibited, but Chazal said you can't do it because at the end of the day it will lead you down the wrong path. I would say, what the Ramchal is really, I think we all struggle with this sometimes, that there are things that we know are usser, but we do them anyway because of the feeling that I know this is not the real isser, right? The real isser is something else. And although we don't like to articulate it because it sounds pretty ridiculous when you say it, at the end of the day, I got this, right? Rabbis, I know you have your concerns, but I got this. I can handle this. Nothing's going to happen. And the truth is, those are famous last words, right? Famous last words. At the end of the day, I will say, we speak over this many times. Chet doesn't just, poof, occur one day. Chet is the culmination of many smaller acts, many smaller decisions, some of which, in fact, may even be innocuous in nature. But when you put them all together, lead a person down a really bad path. So that's the meisim. It's true, the only thing that is prohibited in the realm of arayas, at the end of the day, is actual sexual relationship. But Chazal also understood that there are other forms of physical contact that are not good. Not good. Are they asur daraisa? Okay, you got me there. They're not asur daraisa. But at the end of the day, don't do it because it's going to lead one down a particular path. Next, beri'iyah. Both say this is an incredible idea because this is something I think that is so difficult in our day and age. Amru Zechron Livracha, Yad liyad lo yinakera. Literally translation means from hand to hand will not be cleansed of ra. Will not be cleansed. What does that mean? Any person who intentionally counts money, right, gives money into the hand of a woman with the intention to look at her will not be saved from the judgment of Gehenna. Rabbi say what this means is, essentially, if I go out of my way to look at another woman, who's not my wife, to look at another woman, so such a person like that will not be saved from Gehenna. Now, both say it's a pretty strong statement, right? Again, what is it? What's the prohibition of looking upon another woman? So at most you could say maybe it's lo sasuru acharei einechem, do not follow your eyes. But even that, it's not so clear, as we'll discuss it. That's talking about morality, right? Maybe some about avodah zarah. I don't know, but it's a strong statement to say that I'm not going to be saved from Gehenna. So what does it mean that if a person goes ahead and counts out money in order to be able to look at another woman, he's not going to be saved from Gehenna? What it means is Chazal is saying, if you're going down this path with your behaviors, it's only a matter of time until you do something you're not supposed to do. Is the act of intentionally giving money to another woman in order to be able to look at her, is that an Isser D'Oraisa? Is that Arayis Kamar? Maybe not. But at the end of the day, is this the type of behavioral construct that gets people into trouble? Dafka, going out of my way to look at a woman who's not my wife? Yeah. It's the beginning. It's the beginning of a long, dark descent. He goes on, Va'odamru, mipnei ma hutzruchu Yisrael b'sheva osadar kapara. This is an incredible statement. The Gemara quotes over here, quotes over the Gemara in Shabbos. Why did the Dar HaMidbar, right? Why did the Dar HaMidbar require kapara? Now, this is specifically talking about after the war with Midyan. Why is it that after the war with Midyan, the Jewish people required kapara? So the Gemara says, Mipnei shezanu einehem, page kovav, min ha'erva. At the end it says the Gemara, literally because their eyes benefited from immorality. Amar Rav Sheshes, we'll see, what does that mean? Mipnei ma mana hakasuv. Tachshidin shebechotzim, tachshidin shebefnim. Lomar lecha shekala mistakel be'etzba kitana shel isha kila mistakel b'makom hatoref. Both say very strong statements. Why did Klal Yisrael, after the war with Midian, require kapara? Apparently because they gazed upon the Midianite women. Okay, remember beforehand, before the war with Midian, so there was a whole issue with actual immorality. But apparently the kapara, the post-war kapara, was necessary just because of looking, just because of gazing, right? They gazed desiriously upon these women, and therefore, again, that required in and of itself kapara. So the Gemara says, because any person, if a man looks upon even the small finger of a woman, but looks at her with a lustful desire and intent, it's as if literally he's looking at her makom erva. Va'amru od v'nishmarta mikol davara. So we'll say, so again, you see what Ramchal is pointing out over here is that here, what are we talking about? We're talking about looking, right? We're talking about looking. So is it really possible to say that looking upon a woman in a lustful fashion, a desirous fashion, is not your wife, right? Ultimately, is I'm not going to be saved from Gehenna. These are very strong statements. So what Ramchal says is Chazal are trying to teach us an incredible idea that again, negative behaviors don't just appear one day. They're the culmination of a number of smaller steps beforehand that may in and of themselves not be totally prohibited, and sometimes may even be innocuous. But when you put them all together, lead a person down a very bad path. So yes, lustful gazing and lustful looking, although by itself it may not be the Isser D'Oraisa, but if that's the mindset that I'm habituating myself to, it is only a matter of time until I get myself into some serious trouble. We'll end with this last statement. The Gemara says, Be'iyan va'amru od, Chazal said in Avodah Zarah, but it's an incredible Gemara, V'nishmarta mikol davara, you shall guard yourself from every evil thing. What does that mean? The Gemara says, Shelo yistakel adam be'isha na'a, afilu hi pinuya, that a person should avoid lustful gazing at a beautiful woman, even if she's not married. And be'ishes ish, afilu hi michueres, right? And a married woman, whether she's beautiful or not, right? At the end of the day, that type of gazing is always prohibited. Suppose they see that Chazal are telling us, and if you think about this, by the way, this is a pretty incredible idea, right? That Chazal are teaching me what I should look at. Right? They're both say, generally we assume, like if there are two things that you don't have that much control over, it's what? Right? It's eyes and ears. Mouth you definitely have control over, right? What you say, I have lips, right? I have lips. I could choose to close my mouth, right? So I'll say, but what I hear and what I see, generally, like something could just come into your ocular range, or someone could come into your auditory range. I can't necessarily hear that or know that, but I will say, but here's incredible. Chazal is saying, yes, you can. You can control what you see. You can absolutely control what you see. Right? At the end of the day, you could condition yourself to look at certain things, to look in a certain way, to gaze in a particular way, and to avoid certain things. Because at the end of the day, if you don't control what you look at, then unfortunately, it's only a matter of time until I get caught in the web of immorality. So we'll stop over here. We'll continue Mirat Hashem on this topic tomorrow. All right, Rabbi, good morning. Let's begin. An incredible daf of Gemara ahead of us today. Today's daf is Lamed Zayin 37, and we are picking up on the top of Lamed Zayin, Mishnah Gimel. Both incredible Gemara today. We dedicate our learning this morning. Today is the yard site of Rabbi Yitzchak of Berdichev, Zechuso Yagin Alinu. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshama of the Tzaddik, will Merit Hashem have an aliyah, and His Torah should continue to inspire us. All right, we'll say Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph, last daf of Meseches Middos. Very exciting. Shoshim Ushmona time Hayusham. We'll say there are 38 ta'im. We've discussed the ta'im. The English translation that's often used are cells. Cells always sounds like it has like such a negative connotation. They were rooms. small rooms. So we'll say these rooms, just so you could appreciate, we saw this a little bit yesterday, right? When the Kohen was going to open up the Azara. So what happened over here? When he was going to open up the Heichal. So remember again, he would take the Pishpeish, right, the small door on the right side. He would come in. We saw Machlokes exactly where he came in. Did he come in behind the two double doors? Did he come in the middle of the two double doors? But according to the approach, he came behind the two double doors. He went through the small door, and he went into one of the ta'im, one of these smaller rooms. What were these rooms used for? So again, so if you can imagine, so remember, you enter. So we're entering into the Beis Hamikdash proper now, right? So you enter into the Beis Hamikdash, you enter into the Ulam, right? The Ulam is the front part of the antechamber, we call it. That's like the wider part. That's the head of the T, right? When you go a little bit further back, you enter into what's called the Heichal. That's the primary Mikdash area, which houses the utensils, the Shulchan, the Menorah, the Mizbeach HaKetoras. There's a curtain then at the end of that Heichal, which is the Kodesh HaKadoshim in back. The Ta'im was pretty much surrounding the Heichal. They went around the entire Heichal area like a U. We're going to describe it in just a moment. What were these Ta'im used for? They were used to house the gold and silver and other precious items of the Beis Hamikdash. This was the storehouse. So Shloshim Ushmana Ta'im Hayusham. There are 38 Ta'im in the Beis Hamikdash. Chamisha Asar B'Tzafon, Chamisha Asar B'Daram. 15 on the north, 15 on the south. Ushmana B'Marav, and 8 in the west. So remember again, just to understand, the west is the area behind the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Shevet Tzafon, Shevet Daram, I will say in the north and the south, Chamisha al Gabe Chamisha, the Chamisha al Gabeim. The 15 were arranged as follows: 3 levels of 5 ta'im each. 3 levels of 5 ta'im each. V'Shevet Marav, the western one, which was only 8, Shlosh al Gabe, Shlosh Shnayim al Gabeim. 2 stories, each of 3 rooms each, and 2 on top. Ushlosha psachim hari l'chol echad ve'echad. Each of the ta'im had 3 entrances, or I should say not entrances, 3 openings. One entrance from one opening to the ta, to the particular room from the right. Echad lahatami small, one entranceway from the left. The echad lahatashi al gabav, and one entranceway ultimately again from top. So as I said, the idea over here was you were able to access the time through ladder systems, right? So you can go from one room up to the next, up to the next, up to the next. Ubekaren mizrachis tzfonis, and on the northeast corner, hayu chamishim psachim. That corner there were 5 entranceways to the ta. Echad lahata min hayamin, one to the ta from the right. The echad lahata sha'al gabav, one to the ta above it. The echad lemesiba, we also went to the mesiba. Now the mesiba, interestingly enough, was, we'll say, so again, if you were looking at the Beis HaMikdash, to the right of the Beis HaMikdash, there was something called the mesiba. Mesiba was a ramp. It was a ramp that went up the side of the Beis HaMikdash, and as we're going to see, essentially went all the way around. We'll see further definition in that in just a moment. One exit ultimately again to the pishpish, to the small door, and then one exit ultimately again to the heichal. In fact, if you take a look at the Rush here for just a moment, the Rush says the Mesiba. Well, actually, he just says we'll see later on the 5th Mishnah. Fine. So we'll say, so those are the time. 38 time. 15 on the north side, 15 on the south side. Each of them arranged in 3 rows, 3 levels, 3 floors of 5 rooms each. 8 on the south side, behind the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Ultimately, again, arranged 3, 3, 2. Beautiful. Dalit. Hatachtona. Chamisha, Verovad Shisha. So now the Mishnah goes on. It's actually very interesting to explain the dimensions of the rooms. So remember again, this is talking on the north and on the south sides, where you have 15 rooms, 3 levels of 5 each. Now the Mishnah just points out that the dimensions of all the rooms were not the same. V'hatachtona chamisha. So we'll say, so essentially the bottom row of rooms of rooms had a width of 5 amas. Verovad shisha. Now we'll say The middle level of rooms had a width of 6 amas. Verova shisha. Hatachtona chamisha verova shisha. Let me say that again. Ultimately, again, we're going to see the bottom row has a width of 5 amas. V'emtzais shisha verova sheva. V'halyona sheva. So both say, so the bottom row had a width of 5 amas, the middle row a width of 6 amas, and the upper row a width of 7 amas. They both says we're going to see essentially the outer wall of the heichal, was indented. So there was a larger, or I should say protruded. There was a larger protrusion on the bottom level, a smaller protrusion on the middle level, and even a smaller protrusion ultimately again on the upper level. The Gemara says, Shnei Emar, Mishnah says, Hayitzia tachtona chamish ba'ama rachba, v'atichona sheish ba'ama rachba, v'ashlishis sheva ba'ama rachba. So we'll say, so apparently the width of the particular time of the bottom row, the middle row, and the upper row were all based on a pasuk in Malachim. So these dimensions ultimately were communicated by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, good. Hey, now we come back to that ta that we mentioned. So just to understand how this worked. So remember, I'm looking at the Beis Hamikdash straight on. Right? So remember again, I'm looking at the entranceway of the Beis Hamikdash. So in front of me, remember, which is the entranceway to the Ulam, in front of me is a double door. To my right is the pishpesh, right? The small door to claim with access. A little bit further past that, or really behind that, are the time, right? That's ultimately all the rooms are behind that. Go a little bit more to the right, and what you would see is a ramp. A ramp. That ramp was called the Mesiba. What would you do with the Mesiba? This is incredible. Hey, Mesiba Haisa'ola, Mikaren Mizrachis Tzfonis, Likaren Tzfonis Ma'arabis. The ramp would go from the northeast corner to the northwest corner. Sheba Hayolin Legagos Hatoim. So I'll say from that ramp, you could get to the top of the time. Remember again, the time extended how many floors? 3 floors. So the Mesiba could take you to the top level of the time. So we'll say, so now you're walking up the Mesiba, you're facing towards the west, but you would be walking the entire northern area, until you'd get to the west. Get to the west, then turn, we're going to see what we're doing. Turn south. Ultimately, again, he would face west until he arrived at the southern side. Once you got all the way to the southern side, you would then turn east. We'll say what just happened over here. Essentially, the Mesiba goes all the way around the actual Beis Hamikdash. So here's what you would do. So Rabbi say, so again, just so we understand directly what's happening over here. I am looking at the Beis Hamikdash, right? I'm staring straight ahead. To my right, all the way to the right of the Beis Hamikdash, is that ramp that goes upwards. If I go ahead and I walk upward of that ramp, so essentially again, I will hit the end of the Beis Hamikdash, turn left. If I turn left, I'm right in back of what? The Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies. Keep going until you can't go anymore. Turn left again. Once I turn left again, that'll bring me to the other side of the Heichal. Once I get to the other side of the Heichal, the Gemara says, something was there called Pischa Shel Aliyah. Both say there was an opening, an entranceway that was there. Pischa Shel Aliyah. Both say this is incredible. How should we get Pischa Shel Aliyah? Shepischa Shel Aliyah, Pasuach Klape Hadarim. Because we'll say ultimately again, the entranceway to the Aliyah. Now what we're going to see is, this was a doorway on the side of the Heichal. This was a doorway on the side of the Beis Hamikdash that ultimately again opened towards the southern side. Uba Pischa Shel Aliyah, now right by that entranceway, that doorway on the side of the Mikdash, Haya Beis Klunasal Shel Erez. But say this is wild. There were 2 pieces of cedar wood, Shebahen Hayu Olin Ligaga Shel Aliyah. Those 2 pieces of cedar wood you could climb up to the top of the Beis HaMikdash, the roof of the Beis HaMikdash. Now I will say, the Rosh records here an interesting discussion as to what exactly this was. Was this like, did the Kohen have to climb this piece of wood? Or Pashas, what he says is, no, it must have been a staircase. It must have been an outside staircase that would lead you ultimately again to the roof. Uberoshan, paspasin mavdilin ba'aliyah, bein HaKodesh bein Kodesh HaKadosh. Well, so we're going to see this in just a little bit. And on the top of this were literally paspasin, pieces of wood, which distinguished, or which made a division in the upper story between the Kodesh and the Kodesh HaKadosh. And we'll see, if you look at the Rush here for just a moment, the Rush says as follows. The Rush says, Hayu, he changes it, actually not yet. 1 second. No, not yet, sorry. Ululin hayu psuchin ba'aliyah lebeis kodesh hakadoshim shebahen hayu mishalshen es ha'umnin betevos kedesh lo yazonu eineim beis kodesh. So essentially here's what's happening. On the left side of the Beis HaMikdash, there was a doorway in an upper story. What that doorway there, was there, that was an access point in order to be able for any type of repairs that had to be made. The way to access that doorway, however, was only on the ramp on the right side of the Heichal. So all the way to the right, there was a ramp. That ramp went all the way around the Mikdash. That ramp led to an outside doorway that also right next to it had a cedar staircase. That cedar staircase led to the rooftop of the Beis HaMikdash. So for rooftop repairs, you would take that outer staircase. If you had to do anything inside, you would use that doorway. The Mishnah then ends up by saying something else. Velulin hayu psuchin ba'aliyah. Rabbi said there were other lulin. Lulin also means entry points or windows. There were windows in the area of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. We'll say, what did they do? We'll say, here's the interesting question. What would you do? What would happen if halacha l'maisa there were repairs needed inside of the Kodesh HaKadoshim? Right? Now, how exactly do you do that? So they had an incredible system. First of all, you would access the Kodesh HaKadoshim from the outside, not from the inside. So what they would do is they would take the outside ramp. Let's say the workers would take the outside ramp. Now, what I do want to point out is historically, whenever they could use skilled Kohanim for any type of repair work, they did. Which is interesting because you would assume, of course, who did the repairs in the Beis HaMikdash? No, you got a guy. Everybody has a guy, right? I'm saying, whatever. I'm not Jews. Jews aren't doing that. Come on, we've got someone for that. I would say so amazing. Once upon a time, Jews were handy, right? So what's amazing to see is again the idea was ideally you had Kohanim. That was the ideal. If you couldn't get Kohanim, you had Leviim. If you couldn't get Leviim, you were able to use Yisraelim. Shaz, how do you get people in there? So as I said, obviously for the sake of repairs, the rules are going to change a little bit. But here's what they did. What happens if you had to make repairs in the Kodesh HaKadoshim? So they didn't want people just coming in through the curtain into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So what they would do is they would go ahead and lower them in boxes through these lulim, through these openings. They would lower them through these containers. The containers were closed on all three sides and only open on the side from which the work had to be done. So therefore, again, this way, they're not looking at anything else that's happening all around them, just focused over there. Take a look at Mishnah Vav. So that's what he says over here. So therefore, again, they would lower them down in the boxes in order that they should not look upon anything else in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Vav. Vaheichal. Now the Gemara is going to get into a little bit of the dimensions of the actual Beis HaMikdash. Vaheichal. The Heichal itself was 100 amas by 100 amas, al-rum mea, by a height ultimately again of 100 amas as well. We're going to see how these dimensions play out. Ha'otem, Nebo said, we're talking first about the height over here. Ha'otem, sheish amas. So this is actually very interesting. The otem was the base of the structure. But now remember again, we saw in yesterday's daf that there were a series of steps leading up from the courtyard of the Beis HaMikdash into the actual ulam. So the ulam itself the Beis HaMikdash was built on a raised foundation. That's called the otem. The otem was 6 amas high. The gova arbaim amma, and then that area, ultimately inside of that area, was then 40 amas. The amma kior. Then we're talking about now the height. Then there was an amma of kior. Kior refers to the fact that there was an amma of decorated ceiling area. So one amma of decorated ceiling area. Actually, again, the Rush points out over here. If you take a look, amma kior, he says, tzitzim uprachim mitsuyarim saviv barachavama. There was like decorative flowers and decorative trees that were engraved for an amma. Va'ama kior va'amasayim beis dofer. So we'll say. So what that means is when you looked up at the ceiling of the Beis HaMikdash, the ceiling of the Beis HaMikdash was decorative. It was beautifully decorative. Above that ceiling, amasayim beis dilfa. There were 2 amos of support beams. 2 amos of support beams. Va'ama tikra. Then another amma, I will say, of reinforced ceiling. Va'ama ma'aziva. Another amma of plaster ceiling. The gova shel aliyah mea amma. And then the upper stars, so I will say, so essentially what we see in the Beis HaMikdash was quite interesting. There was a ceiling that essentially divided the Beis HaMikdash, the height of the Beis HaMikdash, into 2 floors, so to speak. Now, the upper floor wasn't really used for anything. There wasn't a functional second floor. It was really an access area as well. So we'll say, so therefore, this ceiling really has 3 different parts. There's the decorative part, there are the support beams, and then there are 2 more additional layers of ceiling. Above that is what we call the aliyah. V'gova v'shaliyah mem amma. Amma kior v'amasayim beis dilfa. Amma tikra v'amma aziva v'gimel amos ma'aka. Now, both say, now above all of that, now in the rooftop area, there were 3 amos of imaka. Maka is a fence. Why do you need a fence? Because the Beis HaMikdash is a flat roof, right? Anytime you have a flat roof, there is an obligation, ultimately again, to have a fence. So because of that, again, the height of the Beis HaMikdash, when calculating the height of the Makkah is part of the calculation as well. Va'ama kala orev. And I both say there was also an additional amma of what they call the kala orev. I both say it's actually very interesting. Kala orev also means the top of the Beis HaMikdash, the rooftop of the Beis HaMikdash, had metal spikes. Why did it have metal spikes? Because they did not want birds. I will say, you can see this if you go to the Kotel today, right? On the top of the Aron Kodesh, that they have like these pieces of metal that comes from the Beis HaMikdash. That's the Amakar. They don't want birds settling on it. They didn't want birds because they will say, remember, it's not the pshat that we don't love animals. We love everyone, right? It's a cleanup issue, right? They don't want the Beis HaMikdash to become a nesting area. So that was the Amakar. So therefore, again, the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Lo haya kala orev olam in amida, the kala orev, right? Those metal spikes on top is not part of the height of the Beis HaMikdash. Ela arba amos hayamaika. Rather, again, Rabbi Yehuda says, in fact, the Makkah was not 3 amos high, rather it was 4 amos high. And about saying, put it all together, that gives you the entire height. Good. Mishnah Zayin. Mimizrach lemarav. And about say, what about when measuring the Beis HaMikdash from east to west? So from east to west, mea amma. Ultimately was also 100 amas. How so? So we're just running through the calculations here. Mea amma. Kosal ulam chamish. The thickness of the wall of the ulam was 5 amas. La ulam achadasar. The ulam itself was 11 amas. Kosal heichal sheish. The wall of the heichal was 6 amas. The zocho arba'im amma. And then it was 40 amas of space inside of it. Amma Traksim, right? Ve'esrim Amma Beis Kodesh HaKadoshim. The Amma Traksim also means the Amma that was occupied by the curtain of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and then ultimately again the Beis Kodesh HaKadoshim. Ve'esrim Amma Beis Kodesh, 20 Ammas of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Kosel HaHeichal Sheish, Ve'hatah Sheish, Ve'kosel HaTah Chamesh. So the wall of the Heichal was 6 Ammas. The Ta itself was 6 amas, and the wall of the ta was 5 amas. That gives you ultimately again the length in the eastern direction. Minat Safon L'Daram, from north to south, Shivim Amma was 70 amos. How so? Kosal HaMisba Chamesh, so the wall, we'll say, remember again, the Mesiba was the ramp. So remember again, the ramp itself was enclosed by walls on both sides. So Kosel Mesiba Chamesh, Mesiba Shalosh, Kosel Atah Chamesh, V'atah Sheish, Kosel Ahechal Sheish, V'tocho Esrim Amma. So we'll say, so again, we're just going through the measurements of all the different areas. So we'll say, remember again, there are two sets of measurements. There's usable area measurements and there's wall thickness measurements. All of this contributes, of course, to the entire length. Kosel Ahechal Sheish, literally again, the wall of the Heichal was 6 amas. V'atar Sheish, another tar, remember again, another side on the other side, 6 amas. Kosel Atah Chamesh, the wall of the tar was another 5 amas. Beis Horadas Hamayim, Shalosh amas. We'll say here we're introduced to a new area which we did not hear about before, which is the area brought down where the water was brought down. If you take a look actually at the Rush, so the Rush says over here, Beis Horadas Hamayim. We'll say if you have the Rush on the side, it's the second to last line from the bottom. Hayamakom shemei nafchos nimshachin derech sham bitzinors v'only yam she'asa shlama ulebeis hatila. So we'll say this is actually very interesting. So apparently on the left hand side of the Beis Hamikdash, there was a channel that brought down drinking water. Remember again, we learned about the channel that went through the Azara. That apparently was not fit for drinking. That channel ultimately was used for washing the Azara. But apparently a channel to supply drinking water to the Beis HaMikdash came off the left side. And when I say left, I'm talking about when you're looking at the Beis HaMikdash. On the left-hand side was what they called this Beis Horadas Hamayim. That was Shalosh Amas, V'hakosel Chamesh Amas. And ultimately, again, the wall width, 5 amas. Ha'ulam odef alav chamish esrei amma min hatzafon, v'chamish esrei amma min hadarm. So we'll say the ulam, remember the ulam is the top of the T. So the width of the ulam extended past the heichal, 15 amos on each side. The hu haya nikra beis hachalifos. So this is actually very interesting. What did they do with the extra area of width, or of length, of the ulam on each side? Because also remember again, like I said before, the Beis HaMikdash proper is a T, right? The ulam is the top of the T, right? Is a long rectangle, and the heichal ultimately is a longer rectangle. What did they do with the area of the ulam that surpassed the heichal? Remember, 15 amos on each side. Each of those extra rooms were called the Beis HaChalifos, the chamber of knives. What did they keep in the chamber of knives? Knives, right? That's right. No deeper symbolism here, right? So they went ahead and they kept. So the Gemara says, "Beis HaChalifos, shesham gonzim es hasakinin." That is where they kept the knives. So the Gemara says, "This is actually very interesting. The heichal itself became narrower in the back. Me'achorav v'rachav milafanav, was narrower in the back and wider in the front." V'doma la'ari, it can be compared to a lion. I will say, now what does this mean? When it says the heichal was wider in the front and narrow in the back, what it refers to is the Beis HaMikdash as a whole. The ulam is wide in the front, and remember again, then the heichal is narrow in the back. Why was the Beis HaMikdash structured that way? V'doma la'ari, so that it should look like a lion. Shene'emar, quotes over the pasuk from Yeshaya, Hoy Ariel Kiryas Chana David Sefu Shana Ashana Chanim Yinakfu. So the Gemara says, Ma Ari Tzar Me'achora V'rachav Milafanav, just like a lion is wide in front and narrow in the back. Af ha'heichal tzar me'achorav v'rachav milafanav. So to the Beis HaMikdash is wide in the front and narrow in the back. I will say, what does it mean a lion is wide in the front and narrow in the back? It's mane, right? So when you look at the mane, right, when you look at the line from the front, because of the mane, it looks much wider. So this is actually a beautiful, beautiful idea. The Beis HaMikdash was supposed to look like a lion, right? Look, why I say to teach us that the lion is the paradigmatic example of strength, of prowess, to teach us that the strength of Klal Yisrael Rabosai comes from our connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The more strongly we are connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the stronger the connection, ultimately again, the more powerful the Am. Incredible. Hadron Allah, Pischo Shal Heichal. Let's say Mazel Tov. Last daf of Maseches Middos. Lam Zayin Beis. Kol HaZara Haisa Orech 187 Al Orech 137. We'll say the entire length of the Azara, the entire length of the Azara. We'll say, so remember again, pay attention to our terms. Up until now, we have been focusing on the length and width of the actual Beis Hamikdash itself. This is now mentioning the length of the Azara. We'll say the Azara, for our purposes, begins where? Begins at the courtyard which contains the outer Mizbeach, until the wall behind the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So the entire length of the Azara was 187 amos by a length of 180, by a width of 135 amos. Mina Mizrach Lamara, from east to west, Kuf Pei Zayin. How do we say from east to west? So just direction to understand. When you would walk into the Beis Hamikdash from the east. That's how you'd enter the Beis Hamikdash. Now, obviously, you could enter from the south and the north also, but those are side entrances. The front entrance of the Beis Hamikdash is on the east. So remember again, we're going through what we call the Ezras Nashim, which is like the regular courtyard, up a flight of stairs, onto a platform, down a flight of stairs. When you go down that flight of stairs, we're in what's called now the Azara. That outer area contained the Mizbeach, the rings, all the different things we've been learning about right now. That courtyard was that area is 187 amos in length by 135 amos in width. Here's the breakdown. Mina Mizrach Lamarov, from the east to the west, Kuf Pei Zayin, Makom Drisas Raglei Yisrael Yud Aleph Amos. So we'll say the area that we call Makom Drisas Raglei Yisrael, the place where the Israelim could be, that's 11 amos. And we'll say that's pretty much the area from the steps ultimately to the Mizbeach. Makom Drisas Raglei Yisrael Yud Aleph Amos. Makom Drisas Kohanim Achat Esrei Amos. The area where only Kohanim could traverse, another 11 amos. HaMizbeach, the Mizbeach itself made up Shloshim Ushtayim, made up 32 amos. Beina Ulam v'la Mizbeach, in the area between the Ulam and the Mizbeach, Esrim Ushtayim Amos. That represents ultimately what? 32 amos. Hachel Kuf Amos v'achat Esrei Amos la'achori Beis HaKapores. So I'll say ultimately, and in the air, remember again, the Azara is speaking this entire courtyard, there's another 11 amos behind the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Fine. So I'll say, so that, you put that all together, that gives me 187 amos in length. Good. Mishnah Beis, Minat Saflan. So we'll say that's the length. Now remember, length goes from east to west. Width goes from north to south. So Minat Saflan Daram, we'll say, what about width? Minat Saflan Daram, 135 is 135 amos. How so? Minat Kevesh Lamizbeach Shishim Ushtayim. So we'll say from the ramp to the end of the Mizbeach is 62 amos. Minat Mizbeach Litabaos Shmona amos. From the Mizbeach to the rings, right? We'll say the rings, remember that's where they held down the animal for Shechita, is 8 amos. Makom HaTabaos Esrim v'Arba, the area that the actual rings took up was 24 amos. Minat Tabaos l'Shulchanos, from the Tabaos to the tables. Remember, we'll say those are the marble tables upon which they would clean out, right? They would dismember and clean out the animal. So ultimately, again, Arba, 4 amos. Minat Shulchanos l'Nasim, right? So we'll say from the tables to the Nasim are the small pillars, the short pillars. Arba, 4 amos. Min ananasim lakosel, from the small pillars to the wall, lakosel azara, shmona amos. The hamosar, and both say the remaining distance is bein hakevesh lakosel umakam hananasim. And both say the remaining area is the area between the ramp and the southern wall, and the pillars and the eastern wall. Put that all together, and what do you get? 135 amos. Incredible. Gimel. Sheish Lishkos Hayibazar. I'll say another incredible Gemara over here. There were 6 chambers. This is really incredible. 6 chambers in the Azar. I will say now there were more than 6 chambers, but now 6 chambers that we're focusing on. This is really incredible. Shalosh B'tzafon, the Shalosh B'tzafon. So we'll say, so remember again, so three in the north and 3 in the south. So just to remember again, east, west, just to get our orientations right. East, west. Now you give this last half of Middos, right? Maybe does everybody, maybe put it on the WhatsApp if everyone wants to see it. They did. Yeah, good. No, I have it over here actually. So say thank you. East, west. Yeah. East, so just so you or east is what we'll call front, right? West. I'm sorry. Yeah. East, west. East is front. West is back. north, south are the sides. Just or if it helps, I don't know if it helps at all. So sheish lishkos hayu ba'azara. We'll say there are six chambers in the azara, right? So also remember again, azara, just because we use that word a little bit interchangeably here. So azara in this context, Rabbi say, doesn't refer. This for a second. Right, thank you. So remember again, we'll say generally when we speak out Azara, so often we think that refers to this area over here, what we call the Ezras Nashim. We're talking about in this area over here. This is also called the Azara. So all the measurements that we were talking about were in this area over here by the Beis Hamikdash proper. We spoke about this a couple of days ago. We're not talking about this anymore now. Thank you. So the Gemara says as follows: 6 lishkos. There were 6 chambers in the Azara. Shalosh b'tzafon v'shalosh b'daram. 3 in the north, 3 in the south. Listen to this. Shebet Safon, in the northern part of the Beis Hamikdash, Lishkas HaMelach, V'Lishkas HaParva, V'Lishkas HaMadichim. There was, Rabbi, say these 3 chambers. What were these 3 chambers used for? Lishkas HaMelach. Okay, so you don't need too much of an imagination to know what they did with the salt chamber. Right? So the Lishkas HaMelach ultimately again was used Shesham Hayu Nosnim Melach LeKarban. That's where they went ahead and they used they kept the salt, right? Al kol karbancha takriv melach. You have to have salt on every single carbon. So they had salt storehouses. There must have been an enormous amount of salt inside of the Beis Hamikdash. Lishkas HaParva. Lishkas HaParva. Rabbi say, what would they do in Lishkas HaParva? Shebo sham hayu molchin oros kachim. So this is actually very interesting. So remember again, right next to the Lishkas HaMelach was the Lishkas HaParva. What would they do in Lishkas HaParva? They would tan the hides, or literally salt the hides. We'll say one of the ways in which you tan a hide is you salt it. Right? So what do you call that process? Tanning, thank you, tanning, right? So essentially, excellent, right? So they had essentially an in-mikdash tannery, and that chamber was right next to the chamber of salt, right? Which made a lot of sense because you need salt in order to tan the hide. And Rabbi says it's very interesting. Interestingly enough, on the rooftop of the Lishkas HaParva, which was the tanning chamber, Al Gaga Haya Beis HaTfilah Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol Yom Kippurim. So I'll say this is incredible. I don't know if you have a picture of this in Gemara, but again, so remember you have the Lishkas HaMelach all the way towards kind of like the eastern side. Right next to it you have the Lishkas HaParva, which is where they used to tan the hides. On the roof there was a rooftop mikvah. A rooftop lap pool, right? A rooftop mikvah, right? On the Lishkas HaParva, that was the mikvah that the Kohen used on Yom Kippur. Lishkas HaMadichim, Shesham Hayu Madichin, Kerei Kach HaKadoshim. But then Lishkas HaMadichim, that's where they would clean out the insides of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Umisham Mesiba Ol Legag Beis HaParva. And above said there was a staircase, ultimately again from the Lishkas HaMadichim, ultimately again to the Beis HaTfilah. So I'll say, interestingly enough, that was an enclosed staircase, and it was done in a way to prevent the smell from the Lishkas HaParva from impacting the Kohen Gadol as he was going up to use that mikvah. Pretty incredible. Dalit, Shebedaram. We'll say, what were the 3 chambers in the south? Lishkas HaEitz, Lishkas HaGola, Lishkas Hagazis. I will say ultimately again the chambers in the south. The chambers in the south were the Lishkas HaEitz, the Lishkas HaGola, Lishkas Hagazis. So, but what's wrong?
Here they say north.
Oh, I'm sorry. Correct. I'm sorry. Thank you. It's changed. I'm sorry. The Hagosium, right? That's a little above the north. Thank you. The ones in the north. Thank you. Lishkas HaEis, Lishkas HaGola, Lishkas Hagazis. So the 3 chambers in the north, Rabbi say, are these other 3 chambers: Lishkas HaEis, Lishkas HaGola, Lishkas Hagazis. What are these each used for? So we'll say it's incredible. Lishkas HaEis. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov shachachti ma'haisa mishamesha. So we'll say we actually already saw this before. Rabbi Eliezer says, I don't know what the Lishkas HaEitz was used for. Now we'll say, lest you think you're such a chacham. Oh, of course I know what it's used for. It's used for wood. No. Why? Where was wood kept? We'll say, don't make me start Middos all over again. Right? Lishkas HaEitzim was in the primary Azara. Moshe, can I have that for a second? Remember again, Lishkas HaEitzim, we'll say, is in, the Lishk is here. We'll say over here, this is Lishkas Ha'itzim over here, right? The bottom of the Ezras Nashim, this is where all the wood was kept. And remember again, who worked here? The Kohanim who had Mumin, right? The Kohanim who had Mumin ultimately again were worked in that chamber. Their job was to deworm the wood. That was their job. They couldn't do any other avodah, so they worked there. So therefore, Rabbi says, I don't know what this Lishkas Ha'itzim was used for. It wasn't used for wood, because wood was kept in a different storehouse. I don't know what it was used for. So the Gemara says, Abba Shaul says, Lishkas Kohen Gadol, so we'll say, there's actually a machlokes how to read this statement. Some say Abba Shaul is saying that the Lishkas Ha'itzim was actually the Lishka of the Kohen Gadol. So we'll say, so others disagree with that. Abba Shaul is actually, the Rush says, Abba Shaul is making his own independent statement. But the Lishka of the Kohen Gadol, we'll say, so the Lishka of the Kohen Gadol, also known as the Lishkas Parhedrin. That's the first Mishnah Maseches Yuma, that when the Kohen was sequestered from his family after Rosh Hashanah to prepare for the Avodah of Yom Kippur, he was put into a chamber. Some say that, so that chamber was called the Lishkas Parhedrin. That's what Abba Shaul is describing over here. So the Lishkas Parhedrin, so the Lishkas was behind the two other chambers. Now, both say the two other chambers that we see, that we know that he's describing over here, we'll see, are the Lishkas Hagazis and the Lishkas Hagola. We'll discuss Lishkas Hagola in just a moment. The Gag Shloshtan Shava. Ultimately, again, the rooftop, all three of these chambers had an equal level rooftop. Lishkas Hagola, Sham Haisa Bar Kavua. Va'agalgul Nasun Alav. Umisham maspikin mayim lechol ha'azara. So we'll say there was a chamber called Lishkas Hagola. Inside the Lishkas Hagola was a well. Apparently it was a well that was dug by those Jews who came back to build the second Beis HaMikdash. If it ever became known as the Lishkas Hagola, there was a stone on top of that well, and that well provided drinking water for everyone in the Azara. Lishkas Hagazis. Rabbi say what happened in Lishkas Hagazis. So we know Sham Haisa Sanhedrin Gedolish Sheisol Yosheves. So Rabbi say there, Lishkas Hagazis, the chamber of hewn stone. That is where the Sanhedrin sat. Right? Now I just want to point out, we know that ultimately, again, there were certain chambers that were partially inside the Kodesh, partially outside of the Kodesh. Right? The primary one that we were focusing on was what? Was the Beis HaMokad. Right? That's where the Kohanim slept. Part of it was inside the Mikdash. Lishkas Hagaz, chamber of hewn stone, was also partially inside the Kodesh, partially outside of the Kodesh. Because remember, again, obviously the members of the Sanhedrin Rabbi were not all Kohanim, right? So therefore Rabbi says Lishkas Hagaz. So I'm sorry, what happened in Lishkas Hagaz is that's where the Sanhedrin sat. What do they do? Rabbi said this is incredible. What would they do in the Lishkas Hagaz is Sham Haisa Sanhedrin Hagaz Shal Yisrael Yosheves V'Danas HaKahuna. Rabbi say what would they do in Lishkas Hagaz is they would adjudicate who in fact was a fit Kohen. Rabbi said the Rush points out that's not all they did, right? Meaning they did plenty of things. That was the high court. That was the Supreme Court of Klal Yisrael. So Pashas, they were adjudicating different cases all the time. But one of the things that they did was that they determined genealogical fitness. The Kohen Shenimtza Psul, both say Kohen in whom was found the Psul. And I both say Psul in this context doesn't mean like a mum. Psul in this context means what? A genealogical flaw. So they remember again, I both saying it's not like today, right? The guy that comes over to you, Kohen? And you're like, yeah, right? And he says, okay, right? And suddenly again, your mom is like you're a Kohen, right? They both say that's fine, because at the end of the day, the achrayus is on you. You want to get up there and duchen because you think you're a Kohen? Okay, I hope you're right, because you're making a bracha, so hopefully you're right. But I both say, we know when Mashiach comes, there are many Kohanim who are not Kohanim. Many Kohanim, many Levim who are not Levim, just like there are many Yisraelim who are Kohanim and Levim. So I'll say, by the way, it goes both ways. I'll say, because I want to point out something very important, right? So the Kohanim who think they're Kohanim, who are not Kohanim, are going to have to deal with the brachas levatalas they made, right, for duchening. The Yisraelim who our Kohanim are going to have to deal with all the Levayas they went to. Right? So as I said, there's going to be a lot of Kabbanas for a lot of Jews, straightening out a lot of genealogical fitness when Mashiach comes. So one of the primary things they did in the Lishkas Hagaz was they decided who was a fit Kohen. If there was a genealogical blemish discovered in a Kohen, what would happen? This is incredible. Love shchorim, he would wear black clothing. Umisatev shchorim, and he would wrap himself in black clothing. The Yotze v'holechlo. he would go and he would leave the Beis Hamikdash. So we'll say, so apparently what they would do is they would publicize. If it turned out that somebody who thought he was a Kohen is not really a Kohen, they would kind of make it public, which was important. You had to make it public. Not chasam to embarrass him, but I will say, but in order that people should know who is a Kohen, who's not a Kohen. Because remember, again, I will say, it has ramifications for Avod in the Beis Hamikdash, who you give your trumas and maestras to. So if you were found to be genealogically blemished, you went out wrapped in black clothing. I will say, listen to the end of the Masechta. But if a Kohen had his genealogy upheld, Lovesh Levanim, he would wear white clothing, Omes Atef Levanim, Nichnas Mishamish im Echav HaKohanim. The Yom Tov Haya Osin Shelo Nimsa Psul Bezaro Shel Aaron. Rabbi said, listen to this. On the day when the Sanhedrin upheld your genealogical fitness, you made a Yom Tov. You made a big Suda party. You're supposed to think about this. You were just upheld, right? Your Kohanic credentials were just established by the Sanhedrin. You are now a bona fide Kohen. They would make a Yom Tiv. Shel nimtza psul b'zar shel Aaron v'kach haya omrim. I both say this is what they would say. Baruch hamakam baruch hu. Shel nimtza psul b'zaro shel Aaron. That ultimately, again, right, what a bracha, that there was no blemish found amongst the offspring of Aaron. Ubaruch hu shebachar ba'Aaron ubebanav la'amod l'sharis lifnei Hashem bebeis chodesh hakadoshim. And I will say, so Baruch Hashem, that there are unblemished offspring of Aaron, and Baruch Hashem, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has chosen Aaron and his sons to stand before him, to serve in the Beis Hamikdash, and to serve in the Beis Kodesh HaKadosh. And I will say, think about this in such a dramatic way. We have not had our Beis Hamikdash for over 2,000 years, and yet again we still have our Kohanim, we still have our Leviim, we still have our Yisraelim. So we'll say we should be zocha that in the merit ultimately again of learning this Masechta. And again, you have to admit it's been incredible. It's been absolutely incredible to go through all of these Masechtos concerning the Beis Hamikdash. I will say to see all the different parts of the Beis Hamikdash come alive. And you have to admit, every single time you look at these incredible pictures, you say to yourself, I can't wait. I can't wait. Because it's going to happen again. And it's going to happen soon. And the Kohanim here are going to go back to their Avodah. And the Leviim are going to go back to their Avodah. And the Yisraelim are going to go back to work so we can support the Kohanim and the Leviim, right? And I will say, what a schus to be able to do so. What a schus to be, and in Eretz Hashem, we just finished the regal, but you could imagine how by the next regal, we zocha to go up with our mishpachas, to be all the regal, to see the Beis Hamikdash, to see the Kohen Gadol, to feel the Hashras Hashchina, unishama param sfasenu. We learned it, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should see our yearning through our learning, that Im Yirtzeh Hashem should give it back to us, that it should no longer be just a theoretical discussion through beautiful pages of Gemara, but it should come alive in front of our eyes. B'meira b'yameinu. I will say, very important, tomorrow, we begin our last Masechta of the Daf Yomi cycle, Meseches Nida. I will say, Hakol Holech Achar Asof. It's been a long journey, 7.5 years. It's the last Masechta of the cycle. I will say, even if I have not been so great in the previous Masechtas, right? Or even if I've been auditing the last Masechtas. I'm in, I'm out. I do the weekday program, I do the weekend program, whatever. I do the alternate side of the street parking program, whatever it is. I will say, it's the last Masechta. It's the last Masechta. There's 2 months until we finish Shas. And even if you're not finishing Shas, because whatever, we'll say, some people came in the middle of the cycle, so they're not finishing Shas, okay? But when we're Messiahing Shas, you could say that, you know what? I was stark in the last Masechta. I was here every shir. I was on time every shir. I made it my business to chazer. I made it my business to know. There's no days off, I will say. There's no days off from Talmud Torah. There's no days off. There's a reason why there's a Yomi in the Daf Yomi program, I will say. The beauty of it is it's every day. And even if I haven't been every day, up until this point in the cycle, I could finish strong. I'm going to be a Daf Yomi Jew from Meseches Nida. That at the Siyam Hashas, both in Eretz Hashem, the Klal Yisrael Siyam Hashas, and in the beautiful scene we're going to put together for our Shir, even if you're not finishing Shas. You could be a Messiah Maseches Nida. You could be a Messiah ultimately again in the last Masechta in Shas. I will say the ability to finish out the cycle knowing that I took this last Masechta and I made it mine is an incredible zechus as well. So whether you're going to be a Messiah Shas or Messiah, if you put in 7.5 years of work, finish strong. Don't peter out now. But even if you're not finishing Shas, be Messiah in this Masechta. Make this Masechta yours. Say, you know what? This is the Masechta where I demonstrate my unwavering commitment to serious Talmud Torah day in and day out. And it doesn't have to be at this year. It's okay. Wherever you're going to do it. You're going to do it down here. You're going to do it with a chavrusa. Or you're going to do it in a different year. Doesn't make a difference. I'm not a territorial person. As long as you're learning and as long as you're committed to your learning day in and day out, Rabbi say, that's what this is all about. We begin Maseches Nida and Meretz Hashem tomorrow. Meretz Hashem, the last Masechta of our journey through Shas Bavli. Let's begin it strong together, and Meretz Hashem will be zocher to finish it strong together as well. Shkach,